Welcome in. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Qerim.
What's up? How are you?
We had some good action last night, and we had some bad action.
Woo. It was special, but then, it was offset by what we saw. We were supposed to have a Monday Night Football. I think this is one of those days where ESPN should go up to the NFL league office and ask for some money back.
You saw Pop Warner out there.
I never seen anything quite like that. We'll get into it.
It was bad.
All right, let's start with Klay Thompson. He dropped 60, yes, you heard that right, 60 points in a 142-106 win over the Pacers. But it gets better, folks. He put up 60 in just 29 minutes. That's the fewest minutes played in a 60-point game in the shot clock era. We're talking back in the 50s. And that works out an average of 2.7 points per minute.
That's a feat that I put money on, probably never be touched ever again in the history of basketball. It's unbelievable. Just finding open shots, knocking them down. Did it, obviously, all over the court.
I never seen anything like it. In 29 minutes, not even played a fourth quarter. I've watched, Kobe score 80 and 62 and 3/4, but to be on the team and be at the game and, be on the sideline and watch it, it was amazing.
Do you think you could have gotten 80?
Maybe. Like I said, I think I could have. That would have been maybe one day I'll have the opportunity, but 16, 29 minutes is not too bad. I'm satisfied with that.
Stephen A., we might surprise some folks with this question. Here it is. If you had to get rid of one of the players in the Big Three for the Warriors, who would it be?
Max, I need to explain this.
Who would you let go of?
Ladies and gentlemen, of the Big Three, right now, I would let go of Steph Curry.
Stop it.
I would.
Stop it.
let me explain.
Why would anyone ever let go of Steph Curry?
Let me explain. You do know they called me Stephen A. Smith for a reason. Let me break it down. I understand. I am willing to concede the blasphemy coming out of my mouth.
Because it's sounding asinine out of 10.
That's right. Understand. Listen.
See that car? Get rid of the engine.
I feel
if you get rid of one thing, get rid of the engine.
I beg your indulgence. I need y'all to listen to me. Let me break this down for y'all.
Let's hear it.
Steph Curry is the greatest shooter I've ever seen. He's a bad, bad man. No question. No question about it. But on this team, I got a 6'11" dude by the name of Kevin Durant with a 7'6" wingspan who can pull up from 30 and average shoot 40% from the field and drop 30 a game. I got a dude in Klay Thompson who has clearly proven that he is one of the top 2 shooters in all of basketball. We're not disputing that, are we? We're not disputing that, right? No. We know that Steph Curry's number 1 as a shooter. We know what he brings to the table. This dude is mega. I mean no disrespect at all. But if I had to let go of one of them, I got a dude in Klay Thompson that even Charles Barkley has said may be the best 2-way player in basketball. He's not only a shooter.
He's not, but go ahead.
No, wait a minute. Best 2-way player.
No.
I'm just saying, when you think about, listen, he's 6'6".
Love Klay. No.
And can guard 3 positions. All I'm saying to you is that I have to think about that combined with the shooting, combined with Kevin Durant, and ask myself, how much in danger am I of losing that element from them if I don't have Klay? See, I'm sorry, if I don't have Steph. That's my point and where I'm going with all of this. I know that Steph can create his own shot. He can boogie on anybody. He got the nasty handle. He can pull up from anywhere. He's the best shooter in the game. He is elite. I mean no disrespect. Steph Curry, oh my God. I mean no disrespect. He's that big time. But because Kevin Durant is there, if you sat up there and said, you get to, now, Steph is box office. So if we bring a box office appeal, no. Steph is box office. I get that. But if you're talking about purely basketball skill on both ends of the court and what they can bring, I'm not going to lie to you, Max Kellerman, even though he wasn't 100%, as I've said to you on many occasions, you have never hesitated to point out how suspect Steph was in the finals. And I'm thinking about the defensive liability he could be at times. I don't see that in Kevin Durant. I don't see that in Klay Thompson. And that I would never want to lose Steph. But if I had to lose one of the three and I didn't have to take box office into consideration, just purely basketball, I got to say, I would be looking to hold on to the two bigger dudes who can also shoot and defend.
God bless you, Stephen A. Smith. Boy, you make this easy. You are so wrong about this.
Yeah,
Look,
I understand.
Let's start with what makes this team go, okay? Now, it's not just that they're willing to pass the ball. These dudes enjoy passing the ball to one another. They like it. They like hooking their teammates up. They like setting off-ball screens, all that stuff. And that starts really with Steph as the leader of the team. But and that's why Kevin Durant wanted to sign, because he looked at them and thought, there's no personality problems on this team. There's no who's alpha, who's this, who's that. It's let's just play the right way. And that's why Klay Thompson's able to drop 60 in 3 quarters, by the way. And I'd have left him in the 4th. It's early in the season. Let's see how many he can go for. But he's able to do that because of the environment that Steve Kerr and Steph Curry have created, the kind of machine this is. Now think about
who's able to do this.
What's that? Klay. Klay's able to score 60. He'd be dropping. Listen, Klay gets preternaturally hot anyway. He dropped 26 in a quarter last year. That wasn't his best quarter ever.
37.
37. How are you going to drop 26 points in a quarter? And it's like, that's not even close to my best quarter. I don't even think last night's his most impressive performance. 37 points in a quarter and then 60 in 3 quarters. So it's not that he doesn't have a crazy release, infinite range, all those things. He does. But he's uniquely skilled to take advantage of what the Warriors have created. And how have the Warriors created it? Like, what's the number one ingredient? It's Steph Curry. Look, ideally what you'd like to do to Klay Thompson is make him put the ball on the floor and turn him into a decision maker, right? It's not that he's terrible at that, but that's not what he's elite at. If you're playing the Golden State Warriors and you can do that, you've created maybe the optimal scenario for your defense. But you can't say that about Steph Curry. Let him put the ball on the floor and turn him into a decision maker. He's a very good one. He's very good at that. He's the guy who makes the entire team go. And because the primary ball handler will not only do things unselfishly like set off ball screens, etc., but also has infinite range as Klay does and has the ball in his hand bringing it up the court, you got to pick those guys up so early defensively. You have so much extra space that you need to rotate to get to a guy like Klay. And by the way, because of all the things I just mentioned, it's not just threes. He was 8 from 14 last night from 3. That's 24 of his points, if my math is correct. 3 times 8, right? Carry the 2, right. 24 points. What about all those other points? The other 36 points, easy cuts because of the Warriors' offense. On another team, Klay doesn't get to do those things because another team doesn't have Steph Curry.
Well, I disagree with that. And in all honesty, I think that Klay could be Klay with Chris Paul. I think that Klay could be Klay with LeBron. I think that Klay could be Klay with various guys because his movement without the basketball is good as well, and he deserves credit for that. But again, this is a hard argument because I'm not trying to sit up there and act like I don't recognize the greatness of a Steph Curry. I'm just saying that I'm also recognizing the greatness of a Klay and a Kevin Durant combined with their physicality in this NBA game. I think the fact that Klay is 6'6" and can guard 3 different positions matters. I think the fact that Kevin Durant is 6'11" and can guard 3 different positions matter. You're speaking about offense. I'm speaking about all of it. And I'm saying to you, the combination of both.
Klay's a better overall player than Steph Curry?
You don't think so? Yes, I do.
Is Klay Thompson a top 5 player in the NBA?
Is Klay Thompson a top defender?
Is he a top 5 player?
No.
In the end, you add it all up.
No, we think about offense. I would definitely give Steph the edge over Klay offense because I think that Klay is more of a shooter, and Steph Curry, even though he's the greatest shooter that I've ever seen, he can score a myriad of ways.
Yes.
But my point to you is that Steph ain't even in the same stratosphere defensively.
Yeah, but add it all up.
So, all right.
Add it all up. Who's a better player?
I'm going to sit there and say to you, Steph, because Steph is a point guard, and as a point guard, you're a floor general. It's almost the equivalent of a quarterback. I get that, but I'm telling you,
but he plays point guard because he's able to play point guard.
But let me be clear. What I'm saying to you is that on this Golden State Warriors team, I didn't say overall in terms of Steph just a player isolated, Klay just a player isolated. On the Golden State Warriors, if you lost Steph, but you had Kevin Durant with Klay, how much you losing?
More than if you lose anyone else, including Kevin Durant.
Let me tell you something right now. I think that the Golden State Warriors, without Steph Curry, but with Klay and Kevin Durant together, are easily 65-game winners. Easy.
I don't know.
Easy.
I have to think about how many games they win. They win a lot of games, but what makes them different than everybody else, number one, is Steph Curry. And now, ultimately, Kevin Durant's so good, you have to put him there. But before Durant got to the team, if you ask me the second most important player in terms of the way the team functions, I'd say Draymond.
But let me tell you this. It's not an accident. And let's put on our antennas here.
Okay.
And you'll get where I'm going. It's not an accident that Steph comes out in public about less than 2 weeks ago and he says, I can't see myself anywhere else but here, barring any curveballs. What on earth would possibly be a curveball other than the arrival of Kevin Durant? Because when you look, without Kevin Durant, I would never dare utter such blasphemy. But the fact of the matter is Kevin Durant is that surreal, that big time, that much of a package on both ends of the floor.
You brought up the fact that it was off the court income as it relates to sponsorships.
I brought that up, but I didn't limit it to that. I'm saying to you that Kevin Durant being on the team enable. I'm not saying that you want to do it.
Who's the best player on the Warriors? Who's the best player on the Warriors?
Kevin Durant.
Who's the second best player on the Warriors?
Well, again,
Steph Curry.
I'm going to give it to Steph Curry.
Oh,
he's your point guard.
You don't have to give it to him. He took it.
But let me say this. If you're talking about Steph Curry and Klay Thompson isolated, fine.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the compilation
even more
of the
Golden State Warriors function. Even more.
But you're talking
Klay is the beneficiary of it.
But you're talking like we're just trying to give somebody away. The question is, if we had to let go of one, if we had to let go of one,
Klay.
I'm saying to you, it's look, man.
Love you, Michael, but see you later, Klay. If you had to lose a player,
I gotta tell you, I love me some Steph Curry. He's the greatest shooter I've ever seen. But in terms of a complete game, Klay Thompson and what he brings to you defensively, combined with what he does on the court, combined with Kevin Durant being his teammate, I would have to match. I got to tell you, I might lean towards Klay.
I wish you were a GM and we could be trading players.
Let me tell you something right now. You can say
you want to lose Steph off the Warriors.
I promise you, I'm not losing
over Klay.
I'm not losing anything keeping Klay. Clay's a bad boy.
Yeah,
Clay's a
who
bad
gives
boy.
you dribble penetration, by the way?
That's
also,
true.
You're going to go pick up Damian Lillard, fine. But if Damian Lillard's not available, who you got running the point?
I cannot believe how hard-headed you are. I keep saying to you, the acquisition of Kevin Durant enables me to not have to be concerned about those things.
You still need a penetrating point guard who can shoot.
I'm telling you right now. Let me tell you this.
And pass.
And I'm not saying that I would want him because he can't shoot worth a damn. But Rondo can penetrate and dish. There's a whole bunch of
Rondo would be great on the Warriors.
I'm just telling you. No, he wouldn't be great on the Warriors. But for the purposes of Durant and Klay Thompson, I'm only making that argument to say you could go out there and find somebody to penetrate and dish it off. I can't ignore that.
Easier to approximate Klay in the offense. Get a 2 guard who can 3-and-D 2 guard.
Klay Thompson.
It's easier to find than Steph Curry approximation.
Why am I not surprised? You're not thinking about defense at all.
I love defense.
Listen. Did you watch the Warriors in the finals last year?
Yes.
Klay showed up.
Yes, yeah. Klay is a better defender than Steph.
Klay,
and when you add that all up, Steph's still better.
Listen. Steve Kerr was perceived as somebody who dropped the ball because there were times when he didn't get Klay the ball as much as he should have. Let's not ignore that.
All right, so Stephen A. is getting rid of Chef Curry with the shot, and you're getting rid of Klay, who just dropped 60.
I would also like to add there would not have been a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals if Klay Thompson hadn't shown up and dropped 41 on them.
There wouldn't have been a Game 1 in the Western Conference Finals without Steph Curry.
Well, in both.
Gotta leave it.
Durant wasn't there.
This was good. I like this one. We want to hear from you guys, though. Head over to Twitter, weigh in here. Let us know which of the Warriors' big 3 you would let go of if you had to. We'll share those results a little later in the show. I'm really curious to see what other people have to say about this. But some people, they showed out last night, as we just mentioned. Others, they didn't even show up. Jets fans would tell you last night was a travesty, getting crushed by the Colts 41-10. Many thought the team quit in primetime national TV. New York is now 1-5 at home and 3-9 overall out of playoff contention. Todd Bowles, whose record fell to 13-15 with the Jets. Todd, what's on your mind?
Thought for the first time this year, we got our handed to us. I thought they kicked our. I don't think we had a lot of effort. I don't see the film. I'm sure there were some people that showed effort, but for the most part, we got our kicked. It's very troubling when you get your kicked. I thought we got our handed to them, so we're going to see what kind of pride we got this week. And I just know we got our kicked. It appeared that they kicked our physically. Obviously, when you get your kicked like this and handed to you, I don't care whether it's Monday night or Sunday morning, you don't want these kind of games to happen, and it's the first time this year it's happened. I'm angry when I physically get my kicked instead of something happening mentally to get your kicked. When you get your kicked physically, that's embarrassing. You don't see signs of getting your kicked, you just get a kick.
All right, that was Jets head coach Todd Bowles. Obviously, he's a friend of the show, Stephen A. But we got to ask, is it time for him to go?
No, I'm not going to go that far because he had a winning season last year. And as long as people like Jeff Fisher have a job with the tenure that he has, I'll be damned if I'm going to be calling for Todd Bowles' job after just 2 seasons. Having said all of that, the Jets, to say that they should be ashamed of themselves doesn't even begin to touch on what I saw last night. Darrelle Revis, it's over. There's no such thing as Revis Island. Matter of fact, the only island that exists is the one that Revis decides to stand on by himself, because I've never seen him play off receivers so much in my life. It was the softest coverage I've ever seen Darrelle Revis engage in. He seems to have lost all of his confidence, if not all interest. The rest of the team, I was tweeting last night, I couldn't believe how wide open receivers were. I mean, Andrew Luck stood back there, took pictures, called the family, said, "What's up?" Ordered dinner, the whole nine. I mean, and the receivers did the same daggone thing. I mean, they literally walked into the end zone. There were no defenders within yards of these receivers. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Matt Forte, I felt bad for him because on one particular play, he got squashed. The minute he touched the ball, the defender, nobody had blocked him. Not one single offensive lineman had blocked him. It was one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever seen in Jets history. It was worse than the butt fumble. It was worse than it's fumbling the snap by Joe Pasosic, and ultimately I think it was our very own Herm Edwards that picked up the ball in the 80s and ran it into the end zone for the Eagles against the Giants. I'm saying
had to
Giants.
bring that up.
I was thinking the Giants. I was thinking the Giants instead of the Jets, but it was worse than that moment. This was tantamount to the Rich Kotite era. And all New Yorkers know how bad that era was for the New York Jets. For the owner to be in attendance, for the new administration to contemplate making Woody Johnson for the Jets an ambassador, for the vice president-elect Pence to be in attendance, watching this stuff right there. If you're Todd Bowles, you're McCagnon, the general manager, it had to be incredibly uncomfortable to witness and wonder about yourself. This is one of the worst performances I have ever seen by a football team. It was that bad, but I'm still going to say it's one game. This season has been bad. Ryan Fitzpatrick will not be there next year. And Todd Bowles really, really needs to consider, and McCagnon, they got to clean a little house here in order. But it was really bad. But he should not be fired.
Let me first answer the question, and I want to talk about it because I don't take it lightly. Bowles got to go. He's got to go because the team quit on him. I have never seen a nationally televised game, at least I can't think of offhand, in any sport, where you saw one team quit so blatantly, just not try. I didn't watch the second half. Did you watch the second half of that game?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't watch the second half of that game. That was a disgrace. Now,
I'm ashamed to admit that I actually watched it.
Every city with 2 franchises, or generally cities with 2 franchises, the major metropolitan areas, have the heritage team and the clown team. And one of the problems with New York is in basketball, that's the same team. The Knicks are both the heritage and the clown team. That's why New York basketball fans suffer the way they do. But the clown team can come up in the world a little bit. The Clippers in LA right now. But in LA, the Lakers are the heritage team. Clippers are always going to be the clown team in that town. I mean, they've never been to a conference finals, as you mentioned. It's just that's their brand. They can't escape that from a few years of good fortune and good play. And in New York in football, that is the story. The Giants are the heritage team, and the Jets are the clown team. And the reason they remain a clown team is because their owner has a dysfunctional franchise. So I want to get back to Bowles. I don't take it lightly given the percentage of players in the NFL who are African American versus the percentage of coaches who are African American. So when an African American coach gets a shot at being a head coach, I don't take it lightly saying, especially after a couple seasons and a half, oh, he needs to go. But in this case, even from, and I'm not saying Todd Bowles might never be a good head coach. He is with a dysfunctional franchise. I don't see it getting any better because the franchise is the problem. If he stays, even if he somehow magically does a better job, it's still the same situation. You're still the head coach of the New York Jets. So though what I said is true about minority representation in front offices and at the head coaching position, I think in this case, the team don't want to play for him. Obviously, that was a disgraceful performance, the kind that gets head coaches fired. And even from Bowles' point of view, if there is a successful head coach in there in the future, listen, Belichick didn't do well in Cleveland when he stopped there at first, then he deserves better than this franchise too. I think that performance said it's time to go.
Well, first of all, let's hold him accountable in certain respects. Ryan Fitzpatrick shouldn't have been in there. Now, I don't blame Ryan Fitzpatrick for everything the way everybody else does. He had a horrific game where he threw 6 interceptions in one game, but outside of that, even though he hasn't been impressive by any shot, the fact of the matter is he's been the easy scapegoat as far as I'm concerned. But if you're Todd Bowles, you've got to know you should not have this man in there. You should be thinking towards the future. Players clearly quit, but that shows their character more so than his. I think that you go off of last year, and I think that McCagnon obviously has got to get better personnel. You can't let your quarterback wait until the 11th hour and 59th minute to come into camp to be ready to quarterback this team. I think all of those things hurt him. I think there were things off the football field that hurt Todd Bowles this year as well, which is why I would give him going into next season. But this was a very, very bad moment. If I'm Woody Johnson, I would hold on to it to dear life in terms of judging him moving forward into next season. This had better not happen again. It was bad.
Let's leave it there. We have another team on the East Coast in green that also struggled, gentlemen. Coming up, the Eagles were dominated Sunday by the Bengals, so much so that their coach said they basically quit on the field. We'll break down just what's happening in Philly. Plus, Steve Kerr has opened up about how he believes medical marijuana has great benefits, but another head coach doesn't quite agree. Where do the guys stand on this topic? Stay tuned.
First Take is brought to you by Scott Trade. Scott Trade, now is your moment. And Heineken, open your world. Enjoy responsibly.
Hello again. Carson Wentz and the Eagles were flying high to start the season 3-0. We heard Pennsylvania chants, but then Philly went 2-7 and are now last place in the NFC East. First-year head coach Doug Pederson questioned if the whole Eagles team was playing hard against the Bengals in an 18-point loss, saying this: "Not everybody." And that's the accountability that I talk about. I hold coaches accountable for that. I hold myself accountable for that because it all starts with me, and I pride myself each week to make sure the guys are ready to go. But at the same time, it comes down to it's a mentality by each individual player. Will Kane in the house. How are we doing?
Good. Happy to be here.
We are happy to have you as always. Max, I'm going to start with you on this one. What does this say about the Eagles, what I just read to you?
They got a rookie head coach. But I think that he has a promising future, as does the team. The Eagles, until, and I bring up, Lane Johnson going down, their best offensive lineman. At the time he did, through 4 games, you know who led the league in time of possession? Time of possession. The Eagles.
Huh.
When they're with their and because of the tipping point on the offensive line, they had a better running game. And because of that, you had to play the run. They had a better passing game. Mm-hmm. And then he started serving his suspension. And since then, they went from first time of possession to 14th. They went from first to middle of the pack. And Pederson has shown a kind of problem with clock management and different rookie mistakes. But the late, great Emmanuel Stewart, one of the greatest boxing trainers of all time and a colleague of mine for years and a good friend, he wasn't born the greatest trainer ever, right? He wasn't born that way. He made certain mistakes in his first super fight with Tommy Hearns against Sugar Ray Leonard, but he learned from them because he was a genius. And he became one of the great trainers of all time. Pederson has shown a lot of promise, but he is a rookie head coach with a problem on the offensive line, and that's all this is for the Eagles right now.
Maybe I'm just a a stickler for consistency, and some say that's the characteristic of small minds, but I was sitting right over there just a moment ago. When these words came out of your mouth, Max, you said, if a team quits on you, you gotta go. You said Todd Bowles' team quit on him, and he has to go. Now, granted, Todd Bowles has been in New York a lot longer than Doug Pederson has been in Philadelphia, but the news is clear that the Eagles quit on Doug Pederson. Don't take my word for it. Close Philly observers, columnists, Doug Pederson himself saying the team is not trying. When you lose 7 out of 9 games and your coach is saying you're not trying, it's pretty clear the team is quitting on you. My point, Max, isn't that Bowles should be given more leash or that Pederson should be raked over the coals, but it's kind of odd how we choose who to cut slack and who to come down hard on.
I saw
nice
promise
to have
to
some
answer that.
consistency in
It is. That's a good point. To answer that, I saw promise in Pederson in the beginning of this year that made me think he has maybe some special coaching talent, number one. And number two, there's a difference between quitting, which we've seen like from the Jags this year, and other teams you see throughout the course of the year, sometimes they quit, and what the Jets did. I've never seen less effort than what the Jets put out.
That's the difference between me and you. You're busy answering because he put you on the defensive. No, you got to reverse it.
You want to tell me how to attack?
You got to reverse it.
Yes. You have like chunks taken out of you right now. You want to tell me how to attack?
You got to coordinate.
Let me you got to coordinate.
Coordinate,
right? Let me tell you, you got to reverse it. Okay, you got to reverse it. Come to me, you don't know. I'm here for you. Here's the deal. What you should have done is say to him, "Well, you sure you consistent about everything? No matter what, you take the same position every week." Is that what you're saying? Because I need to be clear.
Tape?
Because I got tape, Will. So I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you again. Because you just got on my man Max here. Because you got to be some consistency.
I clarified my position. I got no problem with that.
If you said it the first time, you don't need to say it again. You
don't worry about what I do.
I'm going to worry about what you do. I'm trying to be here for you. I'm trying to be here for you.
All right. Am I consistent every time I'll answer your question directly? I'm sure you can find some inconsistencies.
So I'm just saying.
But I rarely try to make them back to back. I rarely try to make them from one segment to the next.
All right.
Here's what we learned about the Eagles, I think. And to Max's point that I so eloquently rebutted here. It's two things.
Eloquently. Sure.
Number one, Chip Kelly wasn't the entire problem in Philadelphia. If a team is quitting on a coach, you can't very well scapegoat the previous coach anymore. You can't look at the Eagles and say, wow, these are the remnants of what Chip Kelly left behind. Number two, I think this is interesting. Jeffrey Lurie wanted to bring in somebody with some emotional intelligence, somebody well-liked in the locker room. You know, the Texas Longhorns, and I'm a fan of the Texas Longhorns, went through something similar to this with Charlie Strong. Very well-liked. Really good man. But what we learned here is that's not necessarily necessary to win. You don't have to be well-liked. You don't have to be popular to win. And I think maybe Chip Kelly, similar to Todd Bowles in Max's previous argument, is getting a bad rap for where Philly lands today.
I say this to you, respectfully and affectionately. You don't know what the hell you're talking about in this particular situation. First of all, you went from Mackey to Charlie Strong. You trying to tell me Charlie Strong was there because he was liked? What drug are you sniffing? Who the hell would think that Charlie Strong was more likable than Coach Mackey? Coach Mack, Mac Brown. I'm sorry, I was calling Mackey. Mac Brown. Are you kidding me? Mac Brown? Have you seen how nice and affable that man is? Those people were sad in Texas just to see him go because they shared a drink with one another or was on a golf course together. Very, very lovable. Charlie Strong was not lovable compared to Mac Brown.
Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Stick with Philadelphia. Don't go to Austin.
I'm going to Austin.
I saw what happened in those final weeks of Charlie Strong's job. I saw the players show out a press conference.
New York?
Hold on, wait a minute. Don't give me the last few weeks when it comes to Mac Brown. Mac Brown, in terms of likability, Charlie Strong is not even. Well, yeah, but you said that he arrived there. He succeeded, Mac Brown, and you're saying that he'd arrived there because you know what? He's so likable. Well, forget all of that. I want to get to the Chip Kelly.
You reversed it on me. I didn't say that Charlie Strong was more popular than Mac Brown. I said if likability led to wins, Charlie Strong would still be coach at UT.
That's not the only thing.
Likability's not working for Doug Pederson.
You implied Charlie Strong was likable. And
yes.
That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. The players that lost. Okay, I got it. Okay, let's move on. The players that lost loved him. But I want to get to the Chip.
No, the players did love him. They were going to boycott the game.
Saying,
so
who cares?
The players.
But who cares what they love?
Who
cares what they love?
He's saying the point of with the Eagles. Obviously, they didn't like Chip, and maybe they like Doug Pederson. It doesn't mean they're going to win.
Here's the issue with
y'all are unbelievable because ain't nobody hearing what I'm really trying to say. What I'm saying is, who gives a damn what the players like? Your job is to win. If you don't win, who cares? I wasn't talking about them. I'm talking about all the other stuff around it. But let me get back to Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is the problem in Philadelphia. You know why?
Today.
Because you ready?
Yeah.
Because the players that need to be there ain't there. Deshaun Jackson's in D.C. DeMarco Murray is in Tennessee. You got to get. Listen, what I'm trying to say to you is, what wide receiver do they have outside of Jordan Matthews? Nobody. Okay, this is all Chip Kelly. This is Chip Kelly residue all over the place.
I want to address your Chip Kelly.
All over the place. That was my point.
This is where you have gone wrong, Will Kane, with Chip Kelly. Because you like the idea of an innovator, and you like the idea of people having patience with an innovator, you have become doctrinaire about it. In his case, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in Philadelphia. It's not working in San Francisco. I predict it will not work in San Francisco. They do have to rebuild the roster in Philadelphia. And in addition to that, it's just they don't have the ball long enough. The defense is gassed. You don't have the same number of rotation of players that you could just bring in, college kids you can ask to do all these things. And so they do have to rebuild based on personnel. In addition to all that, he obviously didn't communicate well enough with his players. And maybe you can learn that. But his system is flawed in the pros.
That was an argument made by you. That was an argument made by Stephen A. as well, that he lost the players. Chip Kelly lost the players. And maybe I was, A, too much of a stickler for consistency, and B, too all over the place.
That wasn't my only argument.
But here's the point. I do require some consistency because you did say, I know you know where this is going now.
I don't.
You lost the argument. And then you just now said, who gives a damn what the players like? You can't make both arguments. Chip Kelly, if he lost the locker room, you can't also argue who cares what the players think.
No. Yes, you can, depending on what we're talking about here. For example, if you're talking about somebody being fond of you or somebody not being fond of you, that's entirely different than the problem the players were saying Chip Kelly had with them. You and I both know that. We don't need to go there today. But that's far different than, you don't like you as a coach, I don't want to play for you. I don't want to play with you. That's far different than what happened. What happened in Philadelphia was a very unique situation that I don't recall ever happening to an NFL coach. That's what happened with Chip Kelly. Plus, you got to remember, he never cared about defense. He threw them to the wolves. They were on the field all the time. They were exhausted. Time of possession. There's so many things that went into that.
I just think the end point is this. The Eagles quit on a coach they didn't like in Chip Kelly. They quit on a coach they do like in Doug Pederson. The Eagles have bigger problems than who is at the front or on the sidelines for them right now. The Eagles have deep problems if they're quitting on their team repeatedly.
They did not like Chip Kelly, but I don't recall looking at the Philadelphia Eagles and seeing a performance 10 them out to last.
And I hate to say this. I really hate to say this.
I didn't see that.
As a Giants fan, Cowboys fan, I think the Eagles are fine going forward. I think they got a good thing.
Yeah.
I think they got a good thing going, and I think it's going to take a little time, but I'm not looking forward to the Eagles team next year.
I don't think they're done. They got a good quarterback.
Wait a minute. We saw an Eagles team last year that was exhausted. We saw Chip Kelly throw them to the wolves. That's what we saw from them as a team last year. They didn't like them, but we saw exhaustion. Last night with the Jets, Sunday against the Bengals for the Eagles, that's quitting.
He's become a scapegoat for every problem in Philly. That a team that's still quitting.
He deserves it. He stinks.
Yeah, both things can be true, by the way.
Quitting on your coach, obviously a concern. But there's another issue we want to get into that we didn't get to address earlier in the week. And I know you have an interesting take on this one, Will. We're looking forward to. So Steve Kerr made news last week admitting that he used medical marijuana for back pain in hopes the NBA would soften their stance, telling the Warriors Insider podcast. This, I know enough, especially over the last couple of years. Having gone through my own bout with chronic pain, I know enough about this stuff. Vicodin is not good for you. It's way worse for you than pot, especially if you're looking for a painkiller and you're talking about medical marijuana. The different strands, what they're able to do as a pain reliever. I think it's only a matter of time before the NBA and the NFL and Major League Baseball realize that. Now, Suns coach Earl Watson had a very different take on this subject, saying that as someone that grew up in the inner city, marijuana use can lead to trouble. Basically, our rhetoric on it has to be very careful because you have a lot of kids where I'm from that's reading this and they think marijuana use is cool. I don't know as far as the pain and how marijuana could help, but I think we have to be very careful how we present that to the public. We'll want to start with you here.
Yes.
Whose side are you on in this one?
I lean towards Earl Watson in this debate. Now, let me lay down a few bona fides because I think this debate kind of gets reduced to, are you a prude or do you like to party? Now, I have been on the record. Most people know somewhat where my political leanings are. I'm conservative, but I'm also conservative who advocated for relaxing drug laws because I think adults should be able to make bad decisions. I know I want to make a bad decision every once in a while.
I think you have. I think you undercover, but go ahead.
I'm not,
I think you undercover.
Clearly,
I just do.
Clearly, I'm not
Will got the look. Will got the look, man.
Every adult should be able to make their own decisions about themselves, and that should include some bad decisions. That being said, here's why Earl Watson is right. 2 points on this medical marijuana debate. Number one, I think the medical part of this debate is largely bogus. I think most people that are for medical marijuana are really for recreational marijuana, and they're doing this under the guise of a half-step measure. And I don't mean just individually, I mean states as well. Look at states that have gone to recreational marijuana like California, and they almost always go with some half-step measure of medical marijuana first. So I just appreciate a little honesty in the debate. If you want to legalize marijuana, as I just said that I think it should be, then say it. Don't sit here and get hung up and try to prove your case on medical marijuana. I'm not saying it doesn't have any benefits. I just think you're hiding the ball. Number two, this is most important why Earl Watson is right. The debate has been reduced into this point where we act like marijuana is harmless. Marijuana is not harmless. I said adults should be able to make bad decisions, but you don't get to pretend like it's not a bad decision. Marijuana in use with young people can retard brain development.
Yes.
And with adults, we've heard it anecdotally and through studies. Comedians have talked about, I've seen my friends who really like to smoke weed and somehow they disappeared from the touring circuit. It reduces ambition. I'm not saying it's direct. If you smoke marijuana once, you're done with your ambition. But we know it has negative effects.
I think it's a tough argument to make that in the arts it has a generally negative effect. But okay, I want to deal with.
You have to recognize its negative effect.
I want to deal. I
want y'all to go. Take it away.
I want to deal with your points one at a time, because I think they're very good ones. In the first place, the argument that the medical argument is bogus. It's not bogus, but you and I are on the same page about that. In this sense, I've always resented the fact that it has been pushed along medical lines, because that's got nothing to do with anything. And the reason it is absolutely a half step, a half measure, is because culturally, this country has been lied to so often that culturally it's ingrained that somehow marijuana is worse than alcohol, which is obviously the standard. It is actually, by all accounts, better than alcohol societally, and even to the individual has fewer drawbacks medically, etc. So there should be no medical argument, mainly because the recreational argument should really have been what's pushed, but too many people have been conditioned that way, and others are too stupid to understand the argument or too closed off to listen to it. So you and I, in a sense, are on the same page there. In terms of Watson's point about the dangers of it for children, absolutely true. It's not, even if you support the use of recreational marijuana because of alcohol laws, if that's the standard, it does have a bad effect on the teenage brain, the still developing brain. Kids are watching. People have to pay attention to that. In addition, Mark Kleiman, the professor at UCLA, and I believe now at NYU public policy, that's right.
Okay.
He has brought up often, and he's crusades about this.
Let him get to you, Max. Don't let him get to you, Max.
No, I'm being informed.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am. I appreciate it.
It's a very small percentage of alcohol users are in fact abusers, and the industry is aware of this, and that's to whom they are selling the product. So like 85%, some huge percentage of alcohol sales are to hardcore addicts, and the same thing will happen as weed is legalized in this country. There will be created a larger pool than currently exists of hardcore addicts for whom it becomes a problem, and that's to whom the industry will sell its product.
It sounds like, Max, we don't have any disagreement.
Yes, however, that doesn't mean Steve Kerr is wrong to say marijuana is better than Vicodin, and that others are wrong to say, and if alcohol is the standard, marijuana should be legal.
You sufficiently hydrated?
I must confess. I have to say this on national. I just have to. It's just on my soul. I have to say this. This is a beautiful moment for me. I mean, we are having a discussion about weed, and two of my white brothers are arguing about it. That had nothing to do with me. This is just a beautiful moment.
I don't know if there was much of an argument.
I'm just saying, it's just a very touching moment. My brothers from other mothers, you understand, are they here on First Take with me? It has nothing to do with the brothers. You know, the argument, the discussion is about weed and its use and beyond. And I just got to sit back here and watch. I'm just very touched by this. That's number one. Number two. Here's my thing. I agree with you to some point. I do believe in some cases, not all, perhaps not most, but certainly a healthy sum. Don't give me that nonsense about medicinal purposes. We all know you just want to smoke
medicine. You want that medicine.
Just stop it, okay? I mean, you know, and that's where Earl Watson's point on a more serious note comes into play. Because he talked about where he's from, and he's from Kansas City, Missouri. And you know the mean streets of Kansas City, Missouri. There's some spots there. I've been there on several occasions. People talk about certain areas. You know, I mean, when we talk about the inner city community, they got an inner city community. You know, white, black, and otherwise. And the fact is that there are challenges that folks from desolate circumstances have to deal with. And drugs, obviously, are a prevalent issue. And so when you talk about it in a nonchalant manner, or you talk about it as if, you know, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, you do have to pay attention to the fact that there are those who will hide behind it, use it as an excuse to engage recreationally in something that has no medicinal purpose for them whatsoever. And because of that, combined with the potential effects that you articulated, it needs to be addressed and treated with the seriousness it deserves. I think what's also behind this, and neither of you have mentioned this, I recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted marijuana legalized in the state of California, and everybody talked about, you know, the monetary, you know, benefits in it all.
Tax.
There's some money in all of this. There's a reason why people are trying to find an excuse to legalize this, because the more the more states that legalize the use of marijuana, the more you'll find a way to be able to profit from it. And I don't think we need to escape that. And people are willing to sacrifice the health, the well-being of the working man and woman out there just to get some additional tax dollars. I don't think that can be ignored.
I don't think Steve Kerr is completely wrong.
I don't think he's.
I just find more truth in Earl Watson's words, because I think if you polled the average man on the street right now or woman on the street, there's a perception that marijuana is harmless and that it's natural and that there's no ill effects and you can't be addicted to marijuana.
Right.
And Earl Watson's right to point out that's not.
I just want to make clear, it is not harmless. It is a vice like any other. It is less harmful. I'm stating this as absolutely as I can based on all the information than alcohol. Alcohol is more harmful than marijuana.
Time out. Fine.
Period.
Fine. Last point.
Yes.
No disagreement there. But the problem is that you act like because that is the case, why not just legalize it? And I'm saying
that's what I'm saying.
No. Eradicate it then. Eradicate both then.
Well, no.
Impossible.
I know that. I know that.
But it should also be very clear, they are both vices.
Fine.
They are both
then I
not
agree.
good for you.
I agree. No dispute there.
This is a lovely little discussion.
I mean, listen, it's touching for me. It's a rare moment, you know.
I don't like you saying I got that look.
You do.
Like a
undercover brother.
individual.
Undercover brother.
Coming up next, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott have brought the Cowboys back to the forefront of the NFL, and it's showing in the Pro Bowl voting that the guys think they deserve so much love. Plus, Russell Westbrook went off again last night, putting up his 6th straight triple-double. So is it his MVP to lose? We'll debate it next. Yesterday's show, we debuted a new segment called Final Take, where the guys are given a chance to just speak their mind uninterrupted on a topic of their choosing. Yesterday, Stephen A., you discussed Jeff Fisher. What are we getting into today?
I must admit, I don't want to say scared, because I'm not really scared. I really don't give a damn, but it's the kind of subject that may not make too many people happy.
I know what you're saying.
Including some of the people here.
Some suits?
And some suits. But I'm going to do it anyway, because it's me.
You're going to close the show and close the show.
I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to close the show and fade to black.
Yeah.
Now, I might not be back, but I'm going to say what I need to say.
All right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Well, stay tuned. Stick around. Final Take at the end of the show. You know that is going to be good. But let's talk a little basketball, gentlemen. For the 6th straight game, Russell Westbrook messed around and got a triple-double, and the Thunder won. It is the 4th longest triple-double streak in NBA history, behind Wilt Chamberlain, who had 9 in a row, and the Big O and MJ, who both had streaks of 7. It was Westbrook's 11th triple-double this season, while the rest of the league has 11 combined, and Russ is currently averaging a triple-double this season with 32 points, 11.3 assists, in 10.9 rebounds. Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
Is he a lock?
Yes,
MVP?
he was a lock for MVP before the season started, and his main competition was going to come from James Harden, which it's coming from James Harden because of D'Antoni. But Russell Westbrook, as I said before, the season's going to win it. He's doing exactly what I thought he'd do. I do not think he's going to average a triple-double throughout the course of the season, but the fact that he can even do it this deep into the season is because he's incredibly talented, and the man is a sociopath with a basketball. He has no conscience. It's the reason he's my favorite player. But I do admit that he's playing a brand of basketball that some purists don't like because they feel that kind of idolatry of Westbrook and that brand of basketball, and some of the same people felt the same way about Kobe and Iverson before him, is glorifying the wrong kind of stuff in basketball, the one-on-one play versus team play. Although if you're averaging double-digit assists, you're obviously also sharing the ball. I just love this kind of unbridled aggression, this kind of sense, Stephen A., that a guy's like, I'm going to put this whole thing on my shoulders and just carry you there. And by the way, the last 6 games, the triple-doubles in the last 6 games have all come in wins. He's winning as he's doing this stuff. You know, he's just an amazing player. But the issue with him, so he's going to win MVP. The numbers are going to be there, and his team will win more games than they should, and they'll make the playoffs, and Westbrook will get MVP. The handcuffs are off. Durant's not there. It's his team. But same thing's going to happen in the playoffs that it always does, I'm afraid. I wish it weren't the case, but a guy like Westbrook, who clearly feels he has to do so much all the time, I think when the playoffs roll around, feels that pressure of having to do too much, and I think that's what's resulted in his bad fourth quarters oftentimes. So I don't expect anything to change in the long run, but he's going to win MVP this year.
Russell Westbrook, you and I both picked him to win league MVP honors this year. Do I think he's on course to do it? Sure. Where you and I disagree is you think it's a lock. I think that's insane. It's not a lock. All right, and I'm not even bringing LeBron into the equation because you and I both agree you can give LeBron the MVP every year with what he means to his team. But Max Kellerman, Russell Westbrook shooting 42% from the field. He's averaging 5.6 turnovers per game. We understand what he brings to the table, but also Harden's numbers are, equitable to his. I mean, Harden, you talking about Harden's averaging 28.7, 11.3 assists. I mean, 11.3 rebounds, about nearly 8 assists. He's shooting better from the field. He's shooting better from three-point range, averaging about the same amount of turnovers. But let's also take a moment to give credit where credit is due. Mike D'Antoni's doing a hell of a job thus far. We got to give him credit where credit is due because Lord knows I was critical of him in the past when he was in New York, not critical at all of him when he was in Phoenix because I thought he was phenomenal. And I certainly was critical of him running Kobe into the ground with Kobe averaging about 45 minutes the last month of the season before he tore his Achilles. But then I look at a guy, and I know it's sacrilegious to say this because of the team that he's on. I cannot ignore what I'm seeing from Kevin Durant. And what I'm seeing from Kevin Durant, it's not just that it's 27, 8, and 5. It's the efficiency. It's shooting 56.5% from the field. Kevin Durant is averaging 27 points on less than 17 shots a game. My God. And I understand everybody's talking about, Max, I get it when you sit up there and say, well, he's open. But guess what? Kevin Durant has always been efficient.
And he's getting into
that
offense.
I'm just saying, he's always been efficient. Now, if this was an aberration, if he never did this in Oklahoma City, you'd have me. But even as the number one option, Kevin Durant was shooting better than 50% from the field. Kevin Durant was shooting better than 40% from three-point range. Kevin Durant was averaging less than 3 turnovers a game. This is who he is.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there I want to respond to.
Number
one, he and Steph are going to split the vote. The MVP is not going to come out of Golden State. That's why we both picked Westbrook. Let's be honest. Before the season started,
that's not why.
It's the reason I did because the reality is they're going to split the vote. 2, in a league where 16 teams make the playoffs out of 30 teams. That means over 50% of the teams make the playoffs. An MVP will almost never be deserving if they're not on a playoff team. Basketball's the kind of sport, especially the way it's played in the NBA. If you have an MVP candidate legit, you will be at least the 8th seed in the playoffs, almost always. So given that, I don't know why they award a regular season MVP. I think they should wait till the end of the postseason to award the MVP. And in that case, it should always be LeBron James. But that's not the way it works. And because it doesn't work that way, you're going to come down to 2 players who don't split the vote with anyone else on their team and who are putting up gaudy numbers. That's Westbrook and Harden. Let me ask you something. Even if you think Harden is more efficient offensively, which he is, who's the better defender?
Well, there's no question it's wet.
Right, so if it's close offensively and one's a much better defender, who's going to get it?
Let me chime in. I'm not saying you're wrong about that. You do not get to make that argument. You shut your mouth. You just finished berating me because I brought up Klay Thompson in defense. But now you want to bring up Harden and Westbrook? Hold on. No, excuse me. The subject of defense, you poo-pooed, dismissed, threw it in the garbage. Now all of a sudden, we ain't talking basketball. We're talking basketball. We're talking basketball. You didn't bring up defense. You just berated me because
you know why? You know why?
Thompson.
You know why? Because that's not a tiebreaker. It's not like Klay's just as good as Steph. Let's go to the tiebreaker.
Wait. You don't get to revisit an hour later the argument.
You just did it.
Argument that you made in the first hour. You ignored Klay Thompson's defense. Now you want to bring up James Harden? No. You don't do that. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, again, if I want to give Russell Westbrook love, it's the fact that at 6'3", 6'4", the brother rebounds the way that he's doing. I give mad respect, even though I see a lot of guys shooting jump shots against Oklahoma City because of Steven Adams and those boys down low. And as a result, he gets those long rebounds. I see that from Russell Westbrook as well. So the rebounding could be a bit deceiving. But in the end, all I'm saying is, because right now, like I said, he would definitely be up there for league MVP with me as well. But I can't dismiss what I'm seeing from James Harden. And I cannot dismiss the efficiency of Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
It's consistent. It's what he does.
Right. Westbrook's going to win the MVP, right? Like, it's a lock. That's a lock. That's happening.
I don't know about that, Max. I believe he will.
Right.
I believe he will, but it's not a lock. It's not a lock. It's too close, Max.
No.
Max, it's not close?
No.
Hold on. It's not close.
No, because
what you're saying from Harden is not close?
Look, no one's usage rate is going to wind up higher than Westbrook, so his numbers will also be the best. For those who are more sophisticated, as you are, and then go to the efficiency of the offense of Harden, that will be more than outweighed by the fact that Harden's a terrible defender and Westbrook is not.
Listen,
Westbrook's going to get the MVP.
There's also something to be said, Molly. When you look at a Russell Westbrook, notoriously in the 40 to 42% range shooting.
Yep.
Okay? This is Kevin Durant the last 5 years. 51, 50, 51, 50, and 56 and a half. What I'm saying to you is this. For every 2 shots this dude takes, he religiously makes one. I cannot ignore, and
you think he's going to be in the running for MVP for real?
Guys, we gotta move on.
It's going to split the vote.
Guys, we got to move on.
You see how efficient he is?
Stephen A., speaking of voting, I got a lock for you. How about them Cowboys? The Cowboys rookies have been living up to the hype this season, and the fans are repaying them for it by making them the 2 leading vote getters for the Pro Bowl so far. We'll debate if they should be getting so much love or not.
Pound, push, pound, touchdown. Runs up out of the pocket, runs to the goal line. It's a touchdown. Feed Elliott, coming right. He's going. Rubbed all the dogs. Touchdown, Cowboys. Starts up the middle. Now he pulls it back. Now he peels around left. Now he throws it in the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys win.
America's team living up to their name, and Ezekiel, Elliott, Dak Prescott lead Pro Bowl voting ahead of Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and Derek Carr. The rosters will be released on December 20th and are determined by the consensus votes of fans, players, and coaches. Each group's vote counts 1/3. Should Dak and Zeke be leading? Stephen A.
Hell no. That's right, I said it. Look, I appreciate what Dak and Zeke are doing.
Apparently
together.
not.
Well, listen. Zip it and listen. Okay?
I want to hear this.
Okay.
I want to hear who you have, please. Why should they not be leading?
I like Derek Carr. I like what I'm seeing from Derek Carr. Some of these comeback victories, the fact that they're 10-2, balling the way that they're balling, primarily feeding off their passing attack, although their offensive line is second only to the Dallas Cowboys in terms of efficiency and what they're able to bring to the table. What we cannot ignore is that Derek Carr is the leader of this team in every sense of the word. I mean, he's the spark plug. Him and Khalil Mack. We know Khalil Mack is the Mack daddy on defense. But you know what? They've had deficits that Derek Carr has had to bring them back from. And what he's been able to do on the offensive side of the ball has been extraordinary. Not that Latavius Murray hasn't shown up and assisted in that regard or anybody else in the backfield, but primarily it's been about their passing attack. It's been about the arm of Derek Carr. And when you look at what he brings to the table compared to Zach Prescott, listen, Derek Carr is completing about 65% of his passes. He's got over 3,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. You see what he's doing. And I look at him right now, and I'm just saying to myself, 513 yards passing against Tampa, 315 against Carolina, 260 last week. He's getting it done. And I look at the year that Oakland is having. I think about the Dallas Cowboys, and Zeke and Dak deserve so much credit. But we all, and even you, Max, if I recall correctly, was on the record talking about how this offensive line, you wish you could give the MVP to them because of the holes that they plug. We literally have watched NFL Countdown and NFL Live and other shows on this network and various others where there's literal footage of holes being opened by the Dallas Cowboys offensive line where running backs ain't even touched.
Right.
And I look at it from that perspective. And I say Dak Prescott deserves a lot of credit. Zeke deserves a lot of credit. But I view Derek Carr as more valuable than either of them.
It's more impressive because they have each other.
They have each other.
So in other words,
Derek Carr.
football's about interdependent parts. Okay, fine. The Cowboys have a great offensive line, the best in the business. Raiders have the second best offensive line in football. I think there's a consensus about that. I believe we all agree with that. It's a great offensive line. Who has better receiving weapons, Dak Prescott or Derek Carr?
Derek Carr.
He surely does, right? And that should help some of his passing numbers.
But. Well,
the other thing is
he has a better number two.
I'll let you go first.
If you want better, who's better? Who's as good as Amari? Well, okay.
Well,
and Amari Cooper and Des Bryant.
You have Des Bryant,
Although
Amari
he hasn't had him
Cooper,
all year.
Michael
Okay,
Crabtree,
fine.
but I'm just saying.
Here's the problem. If you want to start pointing to statistics, then point to the best available ones. Is QBR perfect? No. But it's the best shorthand we have. And Dak Prescott is leading the league in QBR. And unlike Tom Brady, hasn't missed 4 games. So once you start pointing to stats, it's like having a baseball argument. Someone says, well, he has the most RBIs. Yeah, but his OPS is lower, and OPS is more important than RBIs. QBR is more important. Well, okay, but I'm starting there. It's more important than just like kind of yards passed for, or even touchdowns through. Dak has a better QBR. Let me ask you this. We're not talking about MVP here. We're talking about Pro Bowl voting. And who deserves more votes? The quarterback with the better record on the best team in football with the highest QBR.
You don't know that.
Who also
you don't know that about the Cowboys.
Well, right now they have the largest point differential. They have the best record. The evidence suggests so far that they are. And by the way, time was in this country the glamour position in all sports was center field for the New York Yankees, and then at a certain point it was center for the Los Angeles Lakers. But if you ask what is the heavyweight champion of the world, if you ask what is the glamour position in American sports, you would say quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. How many times was Tony Romo deserving of starting in the Pro Bowl? Like 0. But Dak Prescott, as a rookie, yes, with a great offensive line, yes, with other weapons that help him, including his running back, deserves the distinction, and it shouldn't be taken away from him just because he's a rookie. And Ezekiel Elliott, in this case, this is not an MVP vote, doesn't split the vote. He's the lead. He should go at running back. Dak should go at quarterback.
Who's more impressive of the two, though, in your opinion? Would you rather have Dak or Zeke in terms of this voting?
Dak, because of the responsibilities that come along with being a quarterback.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you, Max, is this. You have to understand, when I think about Dak and Zeke, I think about a combo, the cushion of having one another, combined with the offensive line. Tony Romo was there a couple of years ago when DeMarco Murray was having a similar kind of year. Okay? So you've seen what can happen. The Raiders haven't had anybody like Derek Carr in a long, long time.
He also has no help on defense.
And he has no help on defense.
If now, some would argue,
getting a little more help.
He's getting a little more help now. Some would argue the same about the Cowboys. I've seen the Cowboys on several occasions exposed defensively this year, and we all know that Oakland has been exposed. You could sit up there and say that Oakland has better offensive weapons. Des Bryant's back. He's nothing to sneeze at. Jason Witten's a future Hall of Famer, and somehow, some way, no matter how big and slow he looks, the man is always open. My God, Jason Witten, I just don't understand. He's always open, okay? Cole Beasley is nothing to sniff at. When you combine those three with the offensive line, with Ezekiel Elliott coming out of the backfield, that helps Dak. And I'm not taking anything away from Dak because I know that Dak is big time. And the numbers say it, his poise says it, the eye test says it, I get it. But when we think about Derek Carr and what this young brother brings to the table, I got to tell you right now, it's incredibly impressive. And I'm willing to go out on a limb and say this. If you asked me that I would want both, because I believe in Dak Prescott and I believe he's going to be a star in this league. But if I had to pick between the two quarterbacks, I would want Derek Carr.
Well, listen,
I would want Derek
Carr gives you the impression that he's more likely to have the game-winning play, and Dak gives you the impression he's more likely to not make the game-losing mistake. I understand that kind of
accurate point.
Right, proactive, terrible word, but it describes it here, stance toward Derek Carr. I get that, but if you're going to do the thought experiment where you kind of take away what helps Dak, including the O-line and Ezekiel Elliott, again, it's not an MVP vote, it's Pro Bowl, so they can both go with the lead, at their respective positions, Dak and Zeke. But if you're going to do that thought experiment, then I would also ask you to do this next thought experiment, okay? Just imagine that Dak wasn't a rookie, that he paid his dues in the league a couple of years already, and Derek Carr was. I'll bet you then you'd be pro-Dak ahead of Derek Carr. No. A lot of the resistance to Dak comes from the fact that people feel like he hasn't paid his dues yet, and he's benefiting from his offensive line.
I'm going to hurt your heart with what I'm about to say, but I really, really mean it. When I think about, you brought up Tom Brady when you thought about Dak Prescott.
Yes.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here because I'm saying this in a complimentary way, not in an insulting way. You know who I think about when I think about Dak? Think about Alex Smith. I think about a guy who usually doesn't beat himself, won't make the mistakes, won't really, he's not a game manager, which is what I consider Alex. He's an upgrade from that. But I consider Derek Carr a proficient gunslinger when it counts. When I think about Derek Carr, I think about what I once said about Andrew Luck. I think about the John Elways. I think about the Dan Marinos. I think about the Big Ben Roethlisbergers, particularly when he was younger. I think about an Aaron Rodgers. That's how I view Derek Carr.
If you took Alex
Smith. When I think about Dak Prescott, I think about a guy who will not beat himself.
If you took Alex Smith,
mess it up for you.
If you took Alex Smith and made him a more inspirational leader and gave him a bigger arm and took a little bit of the running away, that might be the best player in football. I mean, and that's what Dak is as a rookie.
By the way, one other thing you didn't bring up. Do you realize that Latavius Murray has 553 yards rushing this year? He has one 100-yard game. The Oakland Raiders are all about their passing game. Yeah. All about it.
All right, we got to
all about
it. The big thing I noticed is Matt Ryan not in the conversation anymore. I know this is Pro Bowl voting, and we're talking about Tom Brady as much. It's Derek Carr, it's Dak, and it's Zeke.
I appreciate you saying Matt Ryan. He no longer needs to be called Matty Ice. He's too talented.
That started at BC. That's not going to go away.
He's too talented. He's got to show up in a big moment.
Needs a defense.
All right, the Jets didn't appear to show up against the Colts on Monday Night Football. So just how angry should Jets fans be? Damian Woody will join us to discuss his disgust with the team. Here's a taste of what he had to say about them last night.
I don't know what to say about Todd Bowles, man. If I were Todd Bowles, I'd be worried. I'd be real worried because your team didn't respond to you at all. They laid it down. Didn't respond at all. I would be worried.
Our next guest called it the worst performance he has seen from any team this year when the Jets got demolished by the Colts on Monday Night Football, losing 41-10. We also discussed earlier how Doug Pederson called his team out for not playing hard after the Eagles lost to the Bengals. Damian Woody in the house with his crispy line. How we doing, my friend?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Molly. Crispy.
Looking good.
What's up, my man?
What's up with you, boy?
That's a straight razor, right? You went with the straight razor with the alcohol and everything, like yesterday, I would say.
Man, it's laser sharp.
Mm.
It's laser sharp. Yeah. What's the deal?
That was real bad last night. Yeah, that was real bad.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Damian, how do you know when a football team's quit?
Wow. Well, first of all, go ahead.
The reason why it's important that we ask you that question is because, just for the purposes of this, we're watching other shows. Like Ryan Clark was on Mike and Mike this morning, talking about how he has a problem when folks say you quit, because a lot of times he sees effort out there. People just ain't effective or efficient, which is why we want to know, what is quitting? Define to us how you can see it. What did you see last night?
For me, first of all, let me say, as a former player, one of the last things you want to do is really question another player and say that they quit.
Right.
But with that being said, what I saw on TV last night, and particularly I look on the defensive side of football, because defense is usually defined by hustle. You know what I mean? Like guys sprinting to the football, getting after it. What I saw from the Jets last night on the defensive side of football, it was probably the worst effort that I've seen from any team all year. I mean, take, for instance, the Jets defensive line. Now, coming to the season, that was supposed to be the strength of the team. They got a bunch of guys who are, star name players going against the Indianapolis Colts offensive line, which is the weakness of their team. Andrew Luck had all day to throw back there last night. All day. And when you look at the Colts offensive line, they got a rookie at center. They got a rookie at right tackle. A second-year right guard. I mean, this is a unit that's been bad. So you would have thought going in, okay, this is a matchup that the Jets should just dominate and get after Andrew Luck. Didn't see any of it. Nothing. Guys weren't even registering on a stat sheet last night from the defensive line. Then when you look at Andrew Luck throwing passes all over it, guys were just busting coverages, guys running wide open. I didn't see anybody angry, pissed off, or any of that.
I totally agree,
from the defensive side of football.
I think I could take it a step further and tell me what you think of this. What I'm thinking is, I can't readily recall another nationally televised game in any sport where I saw a team quit to that extent. I think if someone said, what's a short list of the quittingest team you ever saw, that's on it. Like you said, this year, but when was the last time you saw it to that level where it's like, can you guys try a little bit? There was no effort.
Yeah, and the thing that disappoints me is, you just look at last week when they played New England. I mean, they took New England to the brink last week. And to come back this week on national television and to put out that type of performance, to me, it speaks to the character of the team. Because you shouldn't have that type of effort displayed on national television. Listen, your resume is being put out there every single time you step between the white lines. 31 other teams are going to look at that tape, look at your effort. That's your signature. That's your moment. And to put that out there, come on, man. Let me
say a couple of things, and I'm just going to go here. First of all, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. One of the things that I love most was George Steinbrenner. I used to love when you'd see him in a suite and somebody made a mistake and he was ready to raise holy hell. Yeah, he might have overreacted. He might have been too much, but it was clear if you're going to wear his uniform and play for his franchise, the last thing in the world that man had better ever question about you is your effort. It better not happen. And that's what I always appreciated and loved about George Steinbrenner. If I were Woody Johnson, not that this is plausible because there's a union, there's a players association. This is one of those rare moments I believe the owner would have been justified in walking into the locker room trying to withhold dudes' checks. This is one of those moments. That's how bad it was in that first half yesterday. I could not believe how I saw guys literally, am I lying, walk into the end zone. Like, walk. And guys not even come at them. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then I'm going to go here. Look, man, this is more applicable to college football than the NFL. But there's only 5 black coaches in the NFL. And we look at the, big-time college football, we don't see too many, of African-Americans in these positions. And Max and Molly, and he'll know where I'm going here with this, the opportunities are so scarce. You cannot have a black coach and their effort of the players is being questioned. Because everybody ain't Jeff Fisher, especially the brothers. And you ain't getting that kind of latitude and leeway. You mess that up, that's the kind of stuff that cost you the most, because what the owners don't say quietly, but all the African-American coaches fully understand this, is that when it comes to young men, a sport like basketball, a sport like football, where you have predominantly African Americans playing the sport, when you don't perform, that's one thing. But when your effort is questioned, it's a direct assault on the coach, because they look at that coach and they say, you can't control these dudes. They can't even go out there and fight for you. What I need you for? That's what happens. And that's why you can question efficiency. You can question game planning and schemes and all of this other stuff. But when you are a black coach and the effort of the players are being questioned, it is the ultimate death knell. And those players know it. And to go out there and perform like that last night is just so shameful. I can't even say anything else.
As a former member of the Jets,
did I say anything wrong, by the way?
No. I mean, is there something with the organization? You know, I always say a fish rots from the head down. And the Jets seem to me, as a Giants fan, I'm always laughing at them. It's always like a dysfunctional organization. When I had my Jets fans friends, and when they have kids, I'm like, why would you do that to the kid? Why don't you just raise him a Giants fan? Be happy.
I asked my boy Jeff. You know my boy Jeff, y'all man. I got one of my best friends, Jeff Brown, in L.A. Listen, he's one of the best people I know in my life, man. One of my best boys from high school in Queens, New York. Man, what he does to my godchildren is shameful. He's got them as Jets fans and Mets fans.
Right.
I mean, how bad can he be? I tell this to Jeff all the time, my godson Nicholas, man. I mean, to subject my godson to this, to being a Jets fan.
And sign him to a life of
misery. I gave a pass once Bowles was there, but now.
So is there something about the organization that leads to this level of dysfunction?
I always say everything starts at the top and works its way on down. I mean, you look at all the really good organizations, what do they all have in common? They're strong at the top, and the message resonates on down.
I feel bad for Todd Bowles. That this is his shot at head coaching with the Jets. I feel bad for him.
Gotta leave it there. You are staying with us. Aldon Smith hasn't played a game in the NFL since November of last year, but now his suspension is up and he's looking to be reinstated. So should the Raiders bite? Plus, should the Bills be thinking about making a change at quarterback? Rex Ryan has been non-committal about keeping him under center, but do the guys think it's time to give up on T-Mobile? Stay tuned.
This is Daniel Woody's best segment yet.
Non-committal Sunday on Tyrod Taylor at the moment, and says he's focused on Pittsburgh after losing to the Raiders. Taylor has $27.5 million option for 2017 and is 13-12 as a starter in the NFL. Do you agree here with the Bills considering moving on from Tyrod Taylor, Stephen A?
No, I don't. And that's not to say that I don't agree with them definitively. Oh, we got to hold on to Tyrod Taylor. I think that decision should be made after they make the big decision they need to make. And that's about Rex Ryan. Why is this man still a head coach? The fact of the matter is that the Buffalo Bills, or shall I say when the Buffalo Bills, miss yet another playoff appearance, it will be 6 consecutive years that Rex Ryan has been a head coach in the NFL and has not made the playoffs. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm missing something. I thought America was about a meritocracy. I thought America was about production. I thought America was about results. I didn't know it was about your hairdo, you know what I'm saying, the bravado, or stealing headline. I know the owners can get away with that because they cut the check, but those who cash the checks are required to produce results. Except when you're the Fishers and the Rex Ryans of the world. Not that Rex Ryan deserves to be compared to Fisher, because Fisher's in a whole nother category by himself. But I'm just saying, talk to me about Tyrod Taylor. Once you get a coach up in there that knows something about offense and he decides he wants to go in a different direction. Don't talk to me about this now.
Tyrod Taylor right now.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing about Tyrod Taylor. And I think you could say the same thing about Brock Osweiler, Geno Smith, a whole bunch of young quarterbacks who at one point or another you thought were promising. Mark Sanchez, it was the same thing once upon a time. At a certain point, you got a pretty good sense of what you got. And whether that is a guy who might win you a Super Bowl or not one day. And I hate to say it because I felt differently, halfway through last season. But looking at Tyrod Taylor this year, I think not. And I think at a certain point, you got the quicker you make that decision, if you think you've had enough evidence, then find someone who can. Don't overpay for the guy you think can't, just to act as a tackling dummy in the meantime. You can get picks in later on in the draft. You might get a veteran quarterback in the meantime and put those financial resources into other parts of your team so that when you find that guy, you slip them in there and you're ready to go.
My question is if you get rid of him, who are you going to bring in? That's always, we're always quick to dismiss the quarterback or dismiss the player, but who are you going to bring in that you feel like is going to be viable, who is going to be an upgrade? Listen, when I look at Tyrod Taylor, there are two different types of quarterbacks in the NFL. There are the elite of the elite, like Tom Brady, guy who can turn average players into better than average players. And then there's guys that you have to build around in order to get to where you want to go. Tyrod Taylor's in the latter. He's one of the guys, I don't think he's ever going to be elite, but he's a guy that can win. You can win a championship with. He's a guy.
You think so?
Yes, I think if you build the team around him, put the players around him, I think you have a shot to be able to win. With that being said, also, he hasn't had his two primary weapons for most of the year. He hasn't had Robert Woods and Sammy Watkins for most of the year.
4 games for Sammy Watkins. I forgot how many Sammy Woods. And Percy Harvin, who you brought on, only played 1 game for you.
Yeah, listen, again, this guy he's not an elite quarterback. He never will be. And then you take the fact that you're taking away primary targets away in the passing game. Right. How do we have these expectations on Tyrod Taylor to think that he's supposed to be this top tier quarterback?
I appreciate your response there, but I'm still not pleased. I hear all that. So how you feel about Rex? I ain't hear you bring up Rex. Why not?
Well, I'm gonna bring it up right now.
Go ahead. I'm waiting, Damien. I'm waiting. That's right. I'm talking to you. I told you I'm not scared of you, man. I told you to answer the question.
Listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal with Rex. Okay, we have never known Rex to develop a quarterback. We've never known Rex to really care about offense. We've known him to ground and pound and play defense. Mm-hmm. And the defensive part is that I don't ever see Rex being able to develop a quarterback.
So do you agree with what I said about, let's not talk about Tyrod Taylor, let's talk about Rex Ryan. Why should he be there if he's approaching 6 years without making
you already said it. You talk about results.
Why can't you say you agree with me? Why can't you say you agree?
No, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that.
What's
hard?
hard?
We always talk about results, right?
Yes.
When you mentioned that, the man's missed six playoff chances in a row as a head coach.
That's right.
Just Bills. At some point, that's who you are.
Okay.
That's who you are as a head coach.
So you do agree.
So you are who your record says.
You are who your record says.
Okay.
There you go, Marley.
Let's leave it there.
Right. AFC East, you ain't going to get to the playoffs as much as in other divisions. It's the way it goes.
Damien, I appreciate you.
I just appreciate y'all both confessing that you agree with me. I know it's hard. You see what I'm saying? I know it's hard.
Yeah, thank you, Max.
I know it's hard.
I know it's hard. Get another shot in the NFL. And if the Raiders should
contaminated Molly, she the same way. She ain't no different.
Stay tuned.
She just like y'all now. It's all right though. It's all love. I know what it's like. I know.
I'm not gonna punk you out.
You need to do that.
Don't worry about it. So, it's been over a month since Aldon Smith applied for reinstatement from his year-long suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. The league said his suspension falls under the collectively bargained substances of abuse policy, and many steps have to be satisfied within 60 days of the player's application for reinstatement before it can be granted. Ian Rappaport is reporting that sources Smith is setting up a meeting with Roger Goodell or high-ranking official to state his case for reinstatement. The Raiders are tied with the Patriots for the best record in the AFC. Should they want Aldon Smith back?
Yeah, of course. He's a good player, really good player, an impact player. The question is, should he be allowed back? And my sense of that, Stephen A., he's been off a year already. I take the issues he's had very seriously, not just failing the substance abuse policy, which doesn't mean as much to me, but especially the hit and run and mainly the drunk drive, the DW, the DUI. I drive in my car with my kids. I don't want any drunk drivers on the road, like any. I'm sympathetic to the idea that their judgment is altered when they're drunk and then they make bad decisions. Right, but I'm not sympathetic to the idea that they actually go ahead and do that and endanger my children, on the road. Mm-hmm. That said, if the punishment is such that after a certain amount of time, your case is reviewed, then you can't just summarily dismiss the idea of his reinstatement without reviewing the case, unless you believe that it's so beyond the pale that he should never be reviewed. But that's not the rules that are in place right now. And I don't think we need to be overboard in our kind of punishment of this guy. simply because we don't like what he did. He served his time. It is time to review and see if he's ready.
Well, here's where I differ. I disagree with you, first of all. Secondly, I'm not devoid of compassion. I don't think he should be banned. It's not like I don't believe he should ever play in the NFL again. And of course, the NFL says you're suspended for a year, so the year is up, and this is the time where they get to review the case. Me, however, I would not allow him back into the league this year. He would have to wait and then start off the season. You have to show me that you have the intestinal fortitude and the wherewithal to endure OTAs, to endure a training camp, to endure preseason and go into the regular season, that you can do all of these things while making sure you're not inebriated. I would like you to keep in mind, you brought up your kids and you talk about driving with your kids. I'm the same way. I'm a daddy too. Guess what? Not only was this dude drunk one time, it was at 7 in the morning, man. You talking about when kids going to school. Yep. This ain't in the middle of the night. Now, first of all, there's no excuse at any time to get behind the wheel of a car when you're inebriated. I get that. Please don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you come from a club at 1 in the morning and stuff like that. There's less people on the road, and I'll be damned if any kid got any business being in the streets that time of night. 7 in the morning? That's when school buses are coming around. That's when kids are standing on the side, on the corner, waiting for the school bus to come and stuff like that. Come on now. You know, so when I look at it from that perspective, you're going to come back and instantly you're going to be thrusted into the hype and hysteria of the black hole and the Oakland Raiders and the 10-2 season there. You know how it is. You're euphoric. You're in a celebratory mood. You're having success. That usually lends itself towards you, you know, revisiting some of those transgressions that you may have suffered from before, because you're in that state of mind where the world is beatable. You're the king, etc. No. He's not a part of this. Pump the brakes. If I'm Roger Goodell and the NFL, I'm not saying I don't listen to the case. I'm not saying I don't look out for him. I'm not saying I don't help him. But I don't let him back in now. I make him wait until the end of the season.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you said in principle, in terms of looking at it kind of generally. But I think if the time has come to review, and they talk to him, and they are satisfied that he is in a mental condition to play, then he's already served his year.
Hold on. They felt similar about Josh Gordon. Even though he wasn't allowed back on the field, they modified their rules a little bit, let him back with the team to hang out, work out, practice with the team, and then a week before he was due to get back on the field, he had to, Yeah,
but he's not Josh Gordon. It's not fair to hold that against.
No. What I'm saying is,
Aldon Smith.
I think it's very fair, and the reason why I think it's very fair is because he has just as many, if not more, transgressions than Josh Gordon.
But he is an individual, and he needs to be judged on the merits of his own behavior.
But again, whether it's your court system, whether it's a job or anything else, when there's precedent that's established, even if it didn't involve you directly, that's usually used as judgment to making a decision about somebody else.
It had recidivist kind of. Okay,
I'm just saying, it happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
We gotta go. We gotta move on.
Yeah, I want to revisit an earlier conversation that we had, which I thought was very interesting. So we asked you guys to weigh in on who of the big three you would let go, and I just want to make sure, in case people didn't know, Stephen A. said Steph Curry, and Max said Klay Thompson. Here's the results. 44% said they would let go of Klay, 32% Durant, 24% Curry. Did our followers get that right?
Yeah, exactly right, in that order. You got to keep Steph. He's the engine. Kevin Durant's the second most talented player in the world, top 3 certainly, and then Klay is excellent. I love Klay, but he's largely the beneficiary of the team he's on.
I respect where everybody's coming from. I also respect the fact that they're wrong. I'd put my basketball knowledge up against anybody on this planet. That's how I feel. I'm not changing my mind. I love the hell out of Steph Curry. He's big time. But I'm just looking at basketball on both ends of the floor. My position stands.
Interesting conversation, though. Coming up, another one, because we've got Stephen A.'s final take. You never know what is going to come out of this man's mouth to my right.
Like you get rid of
Here's a taste of
Say it
what he had to
respectfully,
say
Molly.
yesterday out of Jeff Fisher. Always respect.
No level of ineptitude on any level, in any sport, compares to the pathetic results produced by Jeff Fisher. Yet he's still around, in LA no less, sunshine and palm trees surrounding him everywhere. I would ask someone to try and justify this, but anyone with sense knows better than to try that with me.
First Take is brought to you by Burger King. Now you can get 2 delicious Whopper meals for just $10, only at Burger King.
So yesterday, we debuted our new segment called Final Take. So this is an opportunity for Stephen A. and Max to go in, let loose on a topic of their choosing, a player, a coach, a team. Yesterday, Stephen A. put Jeff Fisher on notice. Who are you calling out today?
I'll let you know right now. Did anyone hear the news? When LeBron James arrives in New York tonight to face the Knicks on Wednesday, he's not playing any part in honoring the Cavs' contractual agreement by staying at a Trump hotel. For those who may have forgotten, LeBron James endorsed Hillary Rodham Clinton. He couldn't endorse Trump in his rhetoric. But now that the election has passed, even if the emotions have not, rather than engage in pseudo-protests that amount to nothing at this point, perhaps the ultra-statesman that is LeBron James could take a moment to emulate the behavior of his good friend, President Barack Obama, by dealing with the present issue of the African-American vote. After all, the black vote had everything to do with Trump being our new president-elect, did it not? Sure, white men and women showed up and voted for Trump, as did 28% of the Latino population. The funny thing is, however, actually not so funny, is that they did so while too many of Hillary's supporters were so busy lamenting the possibility of a Trump presidency that they actually ensured his presidency by not showing up at the polls, where it counted. 2 million fewer African Americans who came out and voted for President Obama in 2012 showed up to vote for Hillary this past election. More than 100 million eligible voters didn't bother to vote at all. With Obamacare on the docket, Supreme Court justices to be picked, the economy and national security issues to address, the Colin Kaepernicks of the world were more conspicuous than ever before, failing to show up and do their part as Obama and LeBron had employed them to do, particularly in places like North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and of course, Ohio. Essentially, had black folks showed up to vote this time, as they did for Obama, another Clinton would be en route to the White House, period. Everyone with a voice needs to say so, especially LeBron James. Champions take on challenges, don't they? They put in the work. They identify mistakes and correct them. And when they win, they explain how. They also do that when they lose. Folks had a chance to elect Hillary. They didn't get it done. Let negligence and apathy usurp common sense. Acknowledging why, then moving forward are recipes of champions. A nice time to echo such a message would be now, with words of inspiration, that is, not just by choosing to check into a different hotel.
He dropped the mic. As always, these videos will be posted on Facebook. Join the conversation. You might spark a thought for them. Stephen A., you killed it. We'll see you all tomorrow.